second video, we're going to actually explore adding more to our skills. So if you've watched video 1, it shows you how to create a single table using SQLITE. This video is going to show you how you can create a relational database, so how you can link two tables together. Now, if you are an AQA computer science student and you're going to have to do more relational databases, you can add even more tables to this and build it up. But what we're going to do is we're going to start off by importing the libraries that we need. And we are also going to create our table. So this example is just going to be a simple database that has singers / artists and their albums. So this is what we're going to work on today. Now, the first thing we're going to need to do, if you watched our previous video, is we're going to need to create the tables again. So I'm going to set up the SQL for those. So create artist table. Now, if I've got 3 of those and 3 of those, I can start my query inside. And we're going to go to create table if not exists artist. So this is the table that's got the singer inside of it. Now, I would fully recommend creating the table first, then do the second table that is linked to that afterwards, okay? So I'm going to create this, and we're going to go artist ID integer primary key auto increment not null. Okay, so that's going to create a field called artist ID. Let me get rid of that. And then I'm going to have the artist name, and that's going to be text. And the artist genre is also going to be text. Now, notice what I do here, all right? I do not put a comma at the end of the table, because if I put another comma there, it's going to look for another field to create, and it's going to give us a syntax error, all right? So I've created a table that's got the artist ID, their name, and the genre of music. So it could be Shakira, and it's Latin. It could be Blondie, and that's New Wave. It could be Green Day, and that could be rock. So that's kind of where we're getting at. Now, we're not going to use it just yet. Now we're going to create the other table that links to it. So again, we're just doing the SQL for this right now. So I'm going to do the album table. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. And what I'm going to do, again, I'm going to create table if not exists. And this one's going to be called albums. Okay, so I'm going to finish it off down here. And I'm going to start writing my criteria here. So I've got album ID. That is going to be the primary key of this table. Primary key, auto increment, not null, because it's required. Then we're going to go to album name, text, year, integer. Now, this is where we establish our link between the tables, okay? I want to make sure that I link the table. So what I'm going to say here is artist ID integer not null. Now, this is where I put my link. So obviously, I've used this one here because artist ID is found in the other table. So that is my link. But I've not told it that it is linked yet. I've not told it that it's a foreign key. So this is why you put the word foreign key and then say how it links and how it references it. So references, and I say the table, which is artist, reference, and it is artist ID. So what that will do is artist ID references my table, which is called artist, and the artist ID. So that now establishes the link between those. Are we done yet? Not quite, because I now need to actually run that SQL code. So let's just move on. All right. So what we're going to do first is we're going to do our connection object. SQLITE3.connect. And I'm going to create an artist log. So this is going to be artist log.sqlite. So that creates the connection to our file that we will store our tables in, our database. So we're going to have cursor object equals connection underscore object dot cursor. As we said in the previous video, cursor is to kind of set it up so that we can start running our SQL. So I'm going to execute our first one, and I'm doing this in a logical order. I'm creating the artist first. If you really want to make sure that it's exactly the same, you can do that. So I'm going to create the artist table, and then again, I'm just going to copy and paste this code here, and I'm going to create the album table. So I'm going to create the album table. Now, to save those changes, I'm going to say connection underscore object dot commit connection underscore object dot close. Now, if I run this code, let's see if it works. So all I'm doing is creating my tables, creating the link between those tables. Let's run that. And you can see there's no errors. That has run. Now, what we can now do is we can insert into some of these tables. So what I'm going to do, for example, is I'm going to, for this part of the program, create the artist name equals, let's go for Drake, genre equals rap/R&B. So I've got the artist name and genre. I want to insert this. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do my insert query. So as per usual, I'm going to say add new artist equals 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And I'm going to say insert into artist, and I'm going to say artist name and artist genre. Close my bracket. Now, I need the values that are going in, but remember, I can use parameters, okay, to protect it. So let's just double check here before we continue. So in artists, I've got artist name with a capital N and capital A, and artist genre is capital A and capital G. Okay, perfect. And I've got my values that are going to go in. So let's move on to our next bit. All right. So we need to set up an artist first. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run the code to add that artist in. But I've got to type it first. So let's go with SQLITE3.connect. And again, I'm just going to copy and paste this. This way I know that I'm doing it right. So I've connected to the database, and I'm going to say as connection underscore object. And I'm going to say cursor underscore object equals connection underscore object dot cursor, and then cursor underscore object equals, cursor underscore object dot execute, and I am going to say add new artist, and then this is where you separate your comma and add your parameters in. So this is waiting for two parameters here. Those two parameters are going to be the artist name that I've used from here and the genre. Now what that will do is place those straight in, and let's run those. Make sure there's no errors. So that should have gone in. Let's put another one now. Blondie. Let's go for new wave. Run that again. If you really want to see whether they have gone into the database or not, all you need to do is a little bit of code here. Cursor underscore object. In fact, I'm going to paste this code. I'm going to say, I'm going to create my query to show the artist first. Show artist. And I'm just going to change this code here to say select all from artist. So now this adds an artist in, okay? This adds an artist. Let's change that to show all the artists. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to say show artist. That's the query that's going to run. And what I'm going to do here is I am now going to say for row in rows. Sorry. Let me just. So rows. So I need my data. Rows equals cursor object dot fetch all. Remember, this gathers all the records from the SQL query. And what I can do now is say for row in rows, print row. Now, what I'm going to do just for a minute here is I'm going to run this again, but you'll notice there'll be multiple artists of the same name now because I've not removed any of this. I could comment it out, but in fact, I will. I'm going to comment that out because I don't want to add another artist. Don't worry about that. That will not run. Okay. I don't really need to worry about this anymore. So let's run that and see if it works. There you go. You can see the people that each time I've ran it, it's gone in. Now, if I want to add the link, this is where we've got to actually create our query to add in the album. So we're going to create the query that inserts it into album. So let's have a look at our structure again. I need the album name, the year, and the artist ID. Well, let's have a look at some artists here. We've got Shakira at 2, and we also have Blondie at 1. Okay, so I've got Shakira at 2 and Blondie at 1. All right. Now, when we add our data in, we need to make sure that we have that link. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to create my query for adding a new album. So all I need to do really is copy that code, and we can say add new album. Okay. Need to make sure that I've got the table name right, and it's called albums. So add new album, add into albums. Okay. Now if you look here, we've got name, year, artist ID. So what we're going to do here is we're going to say album name. Next one will be year. Let me just double check that I've used year. And then the next one is artist ID. And that is the link between the tables. So it is required in this case. So I've got 3 parameters in. I've got the name, the year, and the artist ID. I'm sorry I am repeating this, but I want to make sure that it's clear that it must be exactly the same. If you get syntax errors, then quite often it's because you've not gone back up. So let me add in some code now. So I've got the query set up to add. Let's just do this. Album name equals laundry service. The year is 2001 and the artist ID equals 2. So this is the data that I'm going to add in. All right. I'm pretty sure I've already added this in, so I'm going to create one called Laundry Service Deluxe Edition. Now, I want to add that in. What I'm going to do is show the albums. So I'm going to create another one called Show Albums and select all from albums because I'm going to use this in a minute. Now, this I'm going to comment out because I don't really need to display all the artists again, okay? So as it stands at the moment, I don't have any code to add new albums in. What I'm going to do first is I'm going to now do that. So I'm probably going to copy this code down here. So I'm going to connect to the database, but then what I'm going to do is run the SQL code that says add new album. Okay, so we're going to add new album. Now, I need to make sure I've got the right attributes that are going in. So into that, I have 3 attributes this time. Those 3 attributes are album name, year, and artist ID. So you can see that's the album name, that's the year, and that is the artist ID. And that is what will go in. So I'm going to add that in, and we're going to run that in a minute. You can see the links there. They're the 3 parameters that were passed in there. And I had to have the artist ID. Now I know that 2, as you can see here, was Shakira. All right. If I wanted to, I could then change this again and post that in. What I want to do after I've done this is I want to see all the albums. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to make sure I've got the data ready. And I'm just going to say print albums. Print, I'm just going to put a space there. Could do new line if I wanted. Now I'm going to run the query. I know I've not closed it. I'm just pasting this. All right. And I'm going to, in execute, we're going to need to type show albums. I am going to reuse this code here. There's no point in making somebody take all the time. What that now means is that query that's executed is stored in rows and I can print it out. So let's see if this works. I haven't committed or closed. I know I mentioned that before, but I know this video is getting a little bit longer and I want you to just understand how to do a relational database. So let's run the code and make sure it works. So you can see that is the album ID and there is the link to the artist.